everyone. And for those that don't know me, my name is Pamela Anson, and I am the Director of Brand Outreach at Better Business Serving Greater Cleveland. Earlier this year, we had a great idea to form a junior board of directors to bring budding entrepreneurs and business leaders together. The goal of this group is to find new ways to connect, give back, and expand BBB brand awareness. And we hope this virtual webinar series provides you and your business a new perspective on common challenges that you might face as a business or a leader. And we appreciate everyone taking the time to attend our first installment of our Junior Board Masterclass. If you have any questions throughout the presentation today, please feel free to type those either in the chat or the questions box. I also would like to let you know that this presentation is being recorded and we will send it out after. And I would like to start off today by introducing our two speakers. First, we have Shanay Braxton of Business and Travel. She is a Black American wanderer and travel storyteller who believes that the world is her classroom, and she is known for her poise, confidence, and out-of-the-box thinking. She felt like she needed a drastic change in her life, and thus began to pack her life up, bid farewell to her family and friends, and moved to Morocco, where she learned about the culture and the language. And that helped start Business and Travel, which offers custom services tailored to the needs of travel and lifestyle content creators, as well as product and service, as well as other product and services. And next we have Althea Young. She is a millennial entrepreneur and founder of NoBasis Company, which is a fashion label of customizable streetwear with a storefront in Great Northern Mall. Upon graduating from Bowling Green University with degrees in supply chain management and marketing, Althea went on to open her business in 2017 after winning the National Battle of the Pop-Up Challenge. She has since successfully grown her e-commerce and brick and mortar apparel company. NoBasis became an accredited business in 2018, and Althea joined the BBB Junior Board as a chairwoman in 2020. So I want to thank our junior board members and speakers for presenting today, and I pass the mic on to you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam.
Thank you so much, Pam. I'm very excited to be here today, and I'm looking forward to sharing some very helpful information for everyone that is joining us. So hello world, my name is Shanay Braxton, and welcome to a series of entrepreneurial insights from emerging leaders. Again, my name is Shanay Braxton, and I'm a travel and lifestyle content creator, and I'm super excited to be sharing the stage with Althea Young, owner of NoBasis Co, your avenue for expression.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us this evening. As they both stated, my name is Althea Young. I'm a Cleveland native, a BGSU grad. I'm also the founder and CEO of NoBasis Co, and I am the chair of the Junior BBB board.
Welcome, welcome everyone. So today, we are presenting insights on ways to diversify revenue streams into your business. So let's talk about what is business diversification.
Yes, so business diversification, the technical definition, is the process of a business enlarging or varying its range of products or its field of operations. So we can diversify in two ways within our business. If you think about having eggs in a basket, right? The basket being your business, you can have different products, different eggs, right? I'm going to take a personal example to make this very clear. So I own a streetwear product line, and my basket being my storefront. I can sell t-shirts, hoodies, and long sleeve t-shirts. These are each my eggs. This is the diversification within my business. The other way to diversify within the field of operation is to actually add baskets, right? So I can take my best selling t-shirt and I can sell it in my store. I could also sell it on Amazon. I can sell it on Etsy, and I can sell it on my website, right? So that's diversifying my field of operations or my distribution channels. But we're gonna dive in a little bit more.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And before we dive too deep into the topic, I want to ask you, Althea, what inspired you to want to discuss business diversification?
Yes, yes. I know you guys have heard it 1,000 times, right? 2020 changed most of our lives. It did. We're still living it, but we saw a great change. And whether you were in business or not, you had to pivot or adjust in some way. So what we began to see is businesses that you would never imagine doing things like curbside pickup. For example, I remember having Nordstrom's bring shoes out to my car, right? You would have never imagined that. But we all were forced to think outside of the box. And we began to see these hybrid models develop and erupt within businesses. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about diversifying and developing hybrid models because we cannot afford to have all of our eggs in one basket anymore.
This is true. And I'm so glad that we are talking about this topic because I think it'll be very informative and insightful for people, and it'll help generate ideas that you can apply to your own business. So that's what you can expect from today's webinar. Today, you can expect to have a better understanding of business diversification ideas to expand your business. So before we talk about cash flow tracker, I want to talk a little bit more about my story. And Pam mentioned it, that I moved to Morocco in 2016. And during that time, that was my opportunity to travel and to explore. And I was deciding, how should I document my experience? When I first moved to Morocco, I decided to start a blog where I shared my Peace Corps experience. And then I decided I wanted to start a blog where I wrote about travel experiences from all of the places that I visited. And for some reason, I didn't have a lot of confidence when it came to starting the business and actually taking my craft serious. And one thing that now that I realize, now that I have more insight, now that I have more confidence to actually go forth with this business idea, now I'm considering more opportunities when it comes to income and revenue streams. So when I started Business and Travel, it was the perfect opportunity, not only for me to share my experience and how to as a travel and lifestyle content creator, but it gave me an opportunity to connect and meet with other travel and lifestyle content creators to see what they experience when they're creating content, what they experience when they're selling their ideas to their audience and to other brands to help grow their revenue streams. And so one of the things that we're going to look at today when it comes to the cash flow tracker is we're going to look at some opportunities. And the reason why we're looking at the cash flow tracker is because, number one, when it comes to an idea, it's only an idea unless it starts to make you money, and unless you're starting to put that action in place to make money for your business. And so what we want to look at is, as we're considering ideas and as we're implementing those ideas, we're able to see where the dollars are and how the numbers are looking. And so I'm going to share with you, and we're not going to get too technical today, okay? So I'm going to just share kind of small examples of where you can diversify and how you can look at your cash flow tracker month to month to see where some opportunities lie. And I'm going to switch screens. So Althea, do you have anything that you want to add while I'm switching screens?
Yes, I'm so happy that you're about to go into this, because before you make the decision to diversify, you really need to have a firm understanding of what is even making you money and what's not. So this tool and these metrics are going to come in handy when it comes to how you want to diversify within your business, because you want to work smarter, not harder. It's every entrepreneur's dream to make more money with less work. So you want to be really smart about it, and you have to know what your foundation and where you're starting off at before you make further decisions, right? So this is great. I can't wait to see what you have to share here.
Yeah, so what we're going to look at is a service-based business. And we're going to talk a little bit about a product-based business later on. But for now, we're going to look at the perspective of a service-based business. And we're looking at 2 different months here with 2 different types of activity within your business. So starting with the month of August, you can see that within the month of August, I started the content audits prior to August. And in August, we're looking at tracking. So you can see that I've had 7 strategy calls within August. And those strategy calls, when looking at the cash flow tracker, that equals, it's loading, $1,500 for the month of August. And so looking at the cash flow tracker, it took me 7 calls, that meant 7 one-on-one activities in order for me to make $1,050. And so within these activities, it's not only about the money. In this case, we're talking about business diversification. But in my case, I also wanted to make a point to mention that this is also about research. So as a service-based business, you might not necessarily have your product right off of the bat. You might not necessarily have the exact area in which you can diversify. It'll take some researching, it'll take some asking questions, it'll take understanding your audience to know what makes most sense for your business as a service-based business. And this is something that I had to go through as well as I was developing as a travel and lifestyle content creator. I just look back at what were some of the things that I felt like I struggled with? What were some of the things that I thought that I might need help with? And within the strategy calls, these are the questions that I'm asking other creators. And when I'm asking the creators is I'm taking this information all in so that I can decide, hey, maybe I don't want to have 7 strategy calls where that's one-on-one. Maybe I want to expand it and grow, and I want to create a course based off of the research that I've gathered from the strategy calls. And so you can look at September here, and you can see that within September, I introduced a creator's course. And so within the course, you can see that on September 7th, 3 creator courses were sold, compared to in August, each day I did a different audit. So right there, you also want to note that time is something as well as money. What's going to take the less amount of time and the less amount of active activity in your business? You'll want to compare that versus the passive activity in your business, or something that's going to work automatically. Granted, the course has to be marketed as well as the strategy calls have to be marketed, but just consider your time spent completing each transaction. So let's look at the cash flow summary for September, considering that we have 1 strategy call and then the creators' courses were introduced. So looking at September, you can see that I spent less amount of time doing the activity, but I was able to make more money in this month. And so that's something that you'll want to consider when it comes to cash flow tracking, and when it comes to being a service-based business. You'll want to consider how much time it's taking you to complete these transactions. Althea, did you have something you wanted to add?
Absolutely. I think that's amazing. Time is money when you're an entrepreneur. And so I love the fact that you balance those 2 out. What I really love is that what you did was realize that what solutions you created in your strategy calls, and then you put them all into one and decided to create a course and just sell those solutions as a passive form of income. And that way you're not on those calls all the time. You've figured out, hey, these are the things that people need help with, or as I'm going to talk about a little bit, kind of your best sellers, right? And you put them all in one, and you're saying, and then you created a course that you can sell on all those different platforms we talked about, and you can make money in your sleep at that point. So I absolutely love that. And I love that we're talking about how the fact that you need to track this first, because a lot of entrepreneurs, we get these ideas and we're like, let's just go after it. Let's just do it. It sounds good. It looks good. Let's just try it. But that's not the way to go if you really want to be serious about your business. So thank you for that.
Right, exactly. And to add on to tracking is going to allow you to see where you should be spending your time. So that's something that we want to see as well. And it is just very important to be able to look at the numbers when you're starting and when you're growing versus when you explode in your business and you're trying to keep up with everything. So that's important to at least get into the habit of tracking where you're diversifying.
All right, and that's a perfect segue into identifying opportunities that make sense for your business, right? It would not make sense for me as a product-based business selling streetwear to begin trying to sell courses on travel, right? No, it might make it might make me a little income if I marketed it right, but it would not make sense overall for my bottom line and what type of research and time it would take. So this is on a case-by-case basis. There's no one who can tell you what works best for your business model in combination with the lifestyle you want to live, right? But what I can do is I can ask you a couple of questions that might jog your brain or jog a thought process and say, hey, maybe this will work for my business. So some things to think about are, were there any recent technological advances within your industry? For example, you got the iPhone, right? The iPhone brought made apps go crazy. Everybody uses apps everywhere. So when the pandemic hit, what went crazy? DoorDash and Uber Eats, right? And this helped so many local restaurants continue to survive that pandemic and beyond. And we're even, I bet you guys discovered some restaurants on DoorDash. I will bet money that you guys discovered new restaurants on DoorDash and Uber Eats. So not only was that marketing for them, they also made sales and increased revenue just by adding, again, a basket, right? And that goes the same for distribution channels. If you're a product, distribution channels were also very popular. You have things like Birchbox, right? Where you can get into a subscription box, just add your product there. That's a great way to test the market, to add to marketing, and to, again, sell products. So subscription boxes are a great and new distribution channel that has happened within the beauty industry and also the food industry. If you're familiar with like Daily Harvest, and there are other ones out there that have similar business models where you can put your product into a large package and get that out to the consumer. Have there been any changes in consumer behavior that would help you to diversify within your business model, or that would apply to your business model? For example, as you guys can see, I like to get my nails done. One thing I noticed over 2020 in the pandemic, nail techs began to make press-on nails. Now, these were really fancy. These were not the ones that you see, in the convenience stores. They made the really nice press-on nails, and they already had the materials to do this, right? They already had all of the supplies, all of the tools, like we talked about, to do this. All they had to do was put them in a box and ship them off to the customer. It adhered to the CDC guidelines, and it's still making them money today. So that is what we mean when we say diversifying within your business model and in alignment and at scale. So you can go on to my next slide. All right, so now I want you to think about some things. I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about, what are your best sellers? Because that's what we want to hone in on before we begin to diversify. We want to say what's working. So what are your best selling products? Give me your top 3, okay? And then what are your best selling months? When do you really make the most sales? Is it Christmas time? Is it seasonal? Is your product seasonal? Is it all year round? Do you have slow months? Think about the what, and then I want you to think about the when, and then finally, I want to think about the where. Where is it selling the fastest? Where is it selling the best? Because if it's working on Amazon, or if it's working on Etsy, it'll probably work on Amazon, right? If it's working on your website, it might work in a boutique or in a store, right? So look at that. Look in your business model. If you have your own website, what areas are you getting the most clicks from? So we want you to take a deep dive into your own business before you begin to expand, but we want you to know how you're going to do it, right? So once you have those 3 things down, and you're saying, all right, I got my best-selling product, what is the profit margin on those products, right? So your profit margin is your selling price minus the cost it took to make the product. And that's everything, that the cost of goods sold, that's everything it went into that product to make. So for example, with a t-shirt, I'm going to have my t-shirt cost, I'm going to have the tag, I'm going to have my label, I'm going to have the printing supplies, I'm going to have my labor. That is all going to affect my profit margin. Now, with that being so right in store, my profit margin is going to be different than if I go ahead and I put it on Amazon or on Etsy. Why? Because Etsy is going to take a small part of that. So you have to keep all of these things in mind when you are thinking about how to diversify. We want you to be in business for a really long time. We don't want you out there losing money, right? So analyze what your best seller is, analyze that profit margin, and then start to think of where it might fit and what it might cost to get it there.
Can I jump in here for a second? Because that actually brought me back to the cash flow tracker that we talked about. And within the cash flow tracker, the one thing that I didn't mention was that there are different tabs within your cash flow tracker. So when Althea is talking about your profit margin, that would be considered your use of money. So how are you spending your money within your business? And then how does that look on the income side? And then it will total up for your cash flow for the month. So what we looked at today was just the income, but think about the cost and the profit margin and how that relates to the cash flow tracker. And those will be different components that you'll have to add from month to month to keep track of what your profit margin is.
Thank you. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna kind of take you on my journey into adding a new revenue stream to my business. It's gonna be quick. So, as you know, I have a store in Great Northern Mall where I was doing business to consumer business. I would have someone walk in the store, they would like what they see, they would purchase it, right? I started to notice, I started to do my research, like Shanay said, and I've noticed, hey, people are often coming to the mall with a friend. They're not too often by themselves. They're either families, friends, groups of kids, things like that, right? So I said, I'm honestly often selling more than one product when it comes to these customized apparel. I'm selling things for couples, right? I'm selling things for best friends, people, kids, and birthdays and things like that. So I'm like, I'm honestly selling to a lot of groups. Let me have an event that is centered around Valentine's Day for my couples where I give them 25% off, right? So this was me testing the market. I said, let me have an event around a specific time, as we mentioned, that would give them the incentive to come in and buy as a group. That went really well. That was held in store. My next step, I began to sell to a group outside of the store. So this was my first collaboration with a workout class, and they brought their t-shirts for the entire group. This was held outside of the store again. Now, at number 3, I began to do business to business. That was my first step into business to business. At number 1, I'm doing business to consumer. I transitioned into groups, and then I started to do business to business. Now I'm at number 4, which is where I'm doing bulk. And I have a completely different revenue stream, a completely different service called NoBasis bulk printing, where I can print up to 500 t-shirts, which is, again, my bestseller, right? I was focused on my bestseller. I sell up to 500 t-shirts to any company in their specific style and design. So I gradually grew into a new revenue stream after I saw what was working. So I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing. Now, that was the route I took. Some other routes that you can take to scale and test your market are collaborations. So for example, if you're thinking of adding a new product, right, a new egg to your basket, one thing you can do is collaborate with a business that does that. So if I were to want to sell jewelry, I could maybe collaborate with a local jeweler and create a piece that was offered on my website and their website, and I can say, hey, does my audience like this piece of jewelry? Or do something like a giveaway. Giveaways are very popular, and I would be able to test and see what the engagement was like on that product. Another way to do to test your market is to do private labeling. So if you're into wholesale buying and you're like, hey, I think that this product would work, but I don't want to put as much work into marketing it and doing it myself, you could go ahead and buy that product and see if it'll work in a boutique or see if it'll work on Amazon and do private labeling that route. It gives you the ability to test a product without putting so much marketing into it. And then in-person events, you guys have seen the pop-ups and, the sip-in shops are coming up this holiday season, things like that. So that's a great way to come up, set up shop. You pay for a table and you see how people like your product. I encourage you to do some research as to who's going to be there. Just to make sure that it's your target audience, because you don't want to get it misconstrued. But you want to go ahead and do some holiday events, some pop-up events, take your tablecloth out there and see if people like your product. So that's a great way to test and try to market at low cost. Again, you don't want to invest in a bunch of inventory or make a huge move without knowing how it's going to affect your cash flow, right? Thanks, Shanay. Okay, so this is really what I just went over, guys. What is your best-selling product? What is working in your business model? Which part of your business is not as lucrative? We want to start to eliminate the things that are not working well. You may think, oh, they're just there. If somebody buys it, yes or no. But you don't want that. You really don't, because it's taking you time and energy to market that product. So what you want to do is begin to get rid of the products and the services that are no longer working for you. They're no longer making you money. And you really want to hone in on marketing your best-selling products and getting those best-selling products into different baskets and testing out new ones. So that's where you want to start, with focusing on what's working. And you do that by looking at that cash flow that Shanay mentioned earlier on in the presentation. So with that being said, I know that was a whole lot of information. Might have went a little fast. I want to know if you guys have any questions for us. Pam, I'm going to invite you in to let us know if there are questions out there or how we can help these guys.
Yes, please feel free to type in your questions and we can answer them. I have a question because, we work with a lot of businesses here. And you mentioned letting go of those products or services that, aren't providing as much value. So how do you suggest, getting over that mindset? Like, how do you let go if you're convinced that that's great for your business?
Unfortunately, you have to let go, because that at that point is more of an emotional attachment. If you look at your bottom line and you look, because you want to analyze those SKUs on a month-to-month basis, right? If I'm selling a style once every 8 months, but I just keep it in stock, there's inventory carrying costs attached to that. I don't want that anymore, right? So you want to let that go. And what that might look like is having a huge sale on that product line to move it swiftly out of your inventory. You can also do wholesale or a private label by giving that to someone else to sell. For example, we had a bunch of kids masks that were not, at the time, right, kids were not being affected by the virus. So it was like nobody was buying these kids masks. However, I'm in a mall where there's a kids store next door to me. So I was able to actually sell those to her. It was private label. It wasn't marked with my brand. I sold those to my next door neighbor because why? Her audience is going to be constantly children. That's not my audience. I do offer kids clothes, but it's not my best sellers, right? Her best sellers are going to be the children. So I gave those to her. So you have to think about what works best. And at that point, I got those masks out of my way for something new and better for those that would capture their attention.
Thank you. And Shanay, when you deal with content creation on social media. So we have some businesses who maybe aren't as familiar with online. How do you suggest someone gets started using social media to diversify their business?
I would say, and Althea and I have this conversation frequently, I would say start by documenting. That's the easiest way that you're going to get started, is just to start by documenting. Nowadays, people want to know the behind the scenes of your business. They want to see what's going on outside of just your sales and outside of just your products. They want to actually see the in the making process. So that's what people need to start showing. They need to start showing that that vulnerable side, that celebratory side. They want to show these different emotions throughout their content. And the best way you can do that is just by documenting. And that's literally how I got started when I decided confidently that I'm going to be a travel and lifestyle content creator and I'm going to share my story. I had to say, Shanay, you're just documenting. It's not this big production. I don't need a $2,000 camera. I don't need all of these, things that will come with time and with consistency. I didn't need that in the beginning. And so that's what I would tell you. And I tell so many people this through my YouTube videos is start with where you are and grow from there. I did want to jump back on the question that you asked Althea. And one of the things that I'll say is, as an entrepreneur, you're not alone. And so when it comes to diversification within your business, talk to a business consultant. There are so many resources available to us as business owners. And when we're thinking about these diversification ideas, when we're thinking about, how does that look from an accounting perspective, or how does that look from a bookkeeping perspective, there are people that we can trust and that we can go to for this information and for this advice. And that was one of the things that I think has also helped me when it comes to my business is getting a business advisor. So I'm talking to him and I'm telling him I'm doing these strategy calls. How should I move forward? And he's telling me evaluate what other creators are doing or what other people are selling their consulting services for and charge that price. But that requires some research, that requires some digging. And so that's what I wanted to add, is that you're not alone. And when you're thinking about making these decisions to diversify, consult with a business advisor, or consult with someone that you trust, an entrepreneurial friend, a chamber of commerce that you're a part of, to see, does this make sense? And am I thinking through this?
And I love that, Shanay. I absolutely love that, because it always helps to get a new perspective. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add to the question that you were asked in regards to content creation. I don't know if you guys saw me, but I was literally about to hop out of my seat, because more than ever, people want to see who owns and runs the business now. It's crazy. I don't know if it was Elon Musk or Steve Jobs and how they became the face of these big brands and people started to feel like they knew them. But during the pandemic, I was on camera more than I've ever been before. And people were so interested in who owned the company. And that attachment means that your business is more than your product. That is you are your competitive advantage. You are your competitive advantage. So when I see content and I'm scrolling through it these days, I'm looking for that authentic vibe from that company and from that business owner. I want to know that they're right in this same grind with me, right? So I think that is a key point when it comes to content creation for businesses right now, is to show up as your authentic self.
Thank you. That's great information for businesses. And I have a few more questions that were submitted. And the first question is, well, this is probably individual based on business. Are times of crisis a good time to look into diversification? Just thinking about COVID-19 when shutdown started. Some owners had more downtime to plan things, but significantly less resources. Basically, should I look to diversify when business is doing really well, struggling, or both?
I can take that if you don't mind, Shanay. So that is exactly why we looked at cash flow, right? So for example, Shanay, I'm not sure exactly how much it cost you, but I would not think that it cost you that much to take that time. You maybe took a day and said, what are the questions I'm being asked the most on this strategy call? Let me put them into a document and upload that document as an ebook onto Amazon, right? That there was something that cost her a little money, but it made her money while she was sleeping. So what I'm saying is diversification does not have to cost you a ton of money. That's why that's why we said what's already working. For me, diversification within my business model did not cost me anything until somebody made a purchase. I was already selling t-shirts. I knew I could sell one, so I figured, right, my hypothesis was that I could sell a bunch of them. So what did I do? I created an email that said commercial printing at NoBasis.co, right? And I said, hey guys, now if somebody wants 500 t-shirts, tell them to send an email here. That cost me nothing, but I started a whole new revenue stream. So diversification does not have to cost you a lot of money at all. So I would say, you can do them when the business is doing great and you find that you have the time to figure out another revenue stream, or you can pivot when necessary. Because for me, my store front got shut down. It got shut down. But guess who still needed merch? Artists who couldn't go on tour, they were trying to sell merch. So guess how many t-shirts they wanted? They wanted a lot of them. And that was my way of staying in business, because I could offer that commercial print service to them even when my doors got shut down.
I do want to add that this is not something that's going to take place overnight. And so one of the things Althea mentioned, which is something came to mind for me, was planting seeds. So when you're paying attention to what's going on when you're within your business, you're looking at your best sellers, you're going to see where there are opportunities. If you're looking at your cash flow, you can see opportunities. You may not take action right away. There may be a crisis that causes you to take action, like all the businesses that had to transition to being digital if they were brick and mortar. And so with the business, there are ebbs and flows. So there's no right way to look at diversification in terms of when you should start diversifying, but you'll want to look at opportunities and you'll want to plant seeds, because when you start diversifying, you're not going to grow overnight. And that's when you start anything. So if you're planting seeds and you're letting your audience and your business know that this is an avenue that I'm growing, or just showcasing the product. And this goes back to that question about documenting. You'll want to just showcase what you're doing, because maybe that product line is not fully developed now, or maybe you're still assessing, but you're at least planting the seeds to get people in the mind frame of this is a direction that you might be going.
And in addition to that, the example that I gave earlier on is the press-on nails that the nail techs began doing, right? All of that product already existed. So you have to, this is where your creativity comes into play, honestly. You have to get creative, and that's why you started. So I bet if you go back to your why, you won't find that those financial limitations get in the way of you creating this new revenue stream. Sometimes we forget as entrepreneurs why we got into the business. It's because we love what we do. So go back to that initial place that you were in and start saying, hey, for example, with me, I used to love to just tie dye and distress hoodies and things like that. So what am I going to do if I can't buy inventory? I'm going to start to thrift things and refurbish them and then put them out there. And that was what I love to do anyways. So get creative, I would say, would be the answer to that question. Is if you're creative, diversification does not have to cost a lot of money.
No, I think that's great. And, Shanay, I know you're on social media all the time, and I follow, many of us I'm sure follow people online and some of these influencers, and I've even seen they've diversified by, doing what you do. Is they had a business where they help, consumers, and they flipped it to offer it to other content creators to be a coach or, a strategist. So I think that's both. You make some really good points.
And within the travel industry, there were individuals that were planning retreats. So retreat planners to consumers. And then they said, hey, let me actually help other retreat planners plan their retreats. And so that was a matter of taking their expertise, packaging it, and selling that to other business owners. So a lot of people within the travel space shifted to and added business B2B and B2C. So selling a trip versus selling a package or a course to a business that sells trips.
That's great. I like what you both said about being creative. We have another question, and it is, how do you make money from store to e-commerce? And how do you use social media to promote your business?
Althea, do you want to talk a little bit about Instagram Shop? I know we talked about that a little bit. Do you want to share a little bit more of your experience with Instagram?
Sure. I use Instagram. So my experience is probably a little unique in that I more so started off brick and mortar. I've always had Instagram. I would say I started using my social platforms for selling again over the pandemic. So I was personally one of those businesses who were like, something has to change here because my doors, like the rug, got pulled from under my feet, right? So I started to focus more on my website, even though I always had a website. I would say that a lot of my energy went into my storefront, being that it was in a mall and it had constant traffic. So I always use my website. I've always made sales in my store. However, social media, I was active there, but I didn't start to upload products for shopping until recently, which would have been last year. And I believe that the Instagram platform is also constantly being tailored more and more for shopping. So it's kind of new to be able to tag those products for shopping and things like that. I try and stay up to date. So I guess the question of how do you promote your business on social media? I try and stay up to date. One key thing is to follow like Instagram creators, the actual accounts that Instagram sets up, because they're showing you what is happening, what type of adjustments that they are making. And you want to stay on the forefront of that as a business owner, if that's one of the platforms that you use. So follow those creator accounts or the Instagram account on Instagram. I know it sounds weird, but stay up to date on the things that they're changing, because they're constantly changing things. As you guys know, Reels and Live exploded during those times. So I definitely went live. I can tell you of one unique experience I had was when we first shut down, I hosted a t-shirt contest live where I had people join in and give me their best slogan for quarantine. And whoever made the best slogan was going to get their shirt put up on our website and sold in stores once it opened back up. And it was so much fun. We had a ton of engagement, and the winning shirt was #airhug, which I thought was super cute. And we're still selling that today. So again, it has to be you have to get back into that creative bag sometimes, and I think that that's what social media is looking for. It's looking for you to step outside the box and do something new, and then of course to adhere to the algorithm.
And I'll say, to make it less stressful, just think about yourself as documenting. Because with social media, it's like, oh, I have to be here, 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 and here. And that's not always the case. I would say become a master at 2 main platforms at minimum when it comes to your business, so that you're not spread thin, unless you have hands on deck, people that are working within your business to help you get your word out and spread it across other platforms. If it's just you and a small team, I would highly recommend focusing on those 2 main platforms where you're marketing and documenting your experience and your journey growing your business.
I think those are really great points. And being a director of brand outreach, which is just marketing, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think it's so important for businesses to be on social media, but we don't want them to be spread thin, especially if this is something new for you. You don't need to tackle everything at once, and you have to use, not every platform is right for every business. So I think that's great. And Althea, I totally agree with you, is if like a new thing comes out on social media, it's always a good thing to try, because that's going to affect the algorithm, and that is going to be what is popular with the program. So try it and use it and see if that helps increase your engagement.
Yeah, if that's what you're going to do, you might as well do it, right? But only if it's working for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. And again, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. And thank you all so much. We hope to see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m.